Hello, everyone, and
Hi.
welcome to the Reselling Your Side Hustle trail tutorial. Oh, pardon me, I'm told this. Danielle, can you hear me?
Yes.
Molly, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great, okay. Let me start again. Welcome, everyone, to the Make Reselling Your Side Hustle trail tutorial. I'm Andrew, and I'm one of the co-founders of Gara Sale Trail. I'd like to start with an acknowledgement of country. In the spirit of reconciliation, the Gara Sale Trail acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, to sea, and to community. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Kick things off, I'd love to encourage you all to jump into the chat and to introduce yourself. Let us know where you're from. It's a big turnout today. There's been 700 plus registrations from around the country. So big shout out to the West Australians, the Territorians, the South Australians, the Taswegians, the Queenslanders, the Victorians, the New South Wales people, ACT. Hello to you all, and thanks very much for joining us. For your optimum viewing experience, I encourage you to go to the view icon on the top right hand of screen and select speaker view. So go to the view icon, top right hand of screen, and go to speaker view. And importantly, the idea is about learning and inspiration. So please feel free to drop questions you might have in the chat, and at the end of the session, we'll get to those. So today's session is a part of Gara Sale Trail 2021. For those of you who don't know Gara Sale Trail, we are a not-for-profit that have been around for over a decade. And we have been working with communities to encourage people to host Gara sales right across the country in the name of promoting secondhand. So this year, Gara Sale Trail is happening over 3 weekends. There's this first weekend of trail tutorials, followed by 2 weekends of Gara sales, November 13, 14, and 2021. And it's all about treasure hunting, meeting neighbours, decluttering, grabbing bargains, and finding weird and wonderful stuff. But there's also a serious side to it. And that is really simple. And it's about how small actions we can all take as individuals collectively amount to something great. And in our case, we're shining the spotlight on what we consume, how we consume, and the waste that we create. And with Gara sales, it's all about extending the life of our stuff and reducing the volume of usable items that end up in landfill. And we're really proud to be able to say that each year, as a result of Gara Sale Trail, 3 million kilograms of stuff is diverted from going to landfill. We're really fortunate to have the support of over 100 councils across the country, local governments, as well as the New South Wales EPA and PayPal. And this weekend, our trail tutorials are all about fashion, flipping, and fixing the planet. And if you want to register for any more, there's a couple to follow this session: how to host a Gara sale and how to host a virtual Gara sale. So that is it from me. I'm now going to introduce our completely epic panel. First up, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Kirra to you. She's also known as the Reselling Enthusiast. Kirra is based in Adelaide, and she has made a seriously impressive start and foray into reselling. Alongside her day job as a paramedic, Kirra started in 2020 and turned over a very handsome $100,000. Next up, Danielle. Danielle is based in Melbourne, and she's the founder of Hawkeye Vintage, which she founded in 2012. Since then, it's grown to become Australia's #1 luxury vintage store. From her first bricks and mortar store to pop-ups and live selling, which she's doing now, Danielle's entrepreneurial spirit and incredible grasp of live streaming on Instagram has led her to great things. And finally, Molly Benjamin, who's the founder of Ladies Finance Club. Molly is on a mission to build a community of money-savvy, financially literate women. She founded Ladies Finance Club in 2011, following the international career in the finance sector. And since then, she's helped over 10,000 women in that goal. So let me stop sharing screen. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
How are we all today?
Going very well for me.
Now, I just want to ask, can you guys hear me okay?
There's a lot of feedback.
There's a lot of feedback, and I think on the chat as well, there's quite a few people just saying it's hard to hear.
Okay, let me see if this makes any difference. By speaking, how's that? How's that?
Better.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better. I think it's the headphones.
Maybe it was the headphones after all.
Okay. So let's jump straight into this session today and cut straight to the chase. I'm going to ask Molly this question. Molly, why have a side hustle?
Well, there's lots of reasons why you might want to have a side hustle, but the main reason really is to have extra income coming into your bank account, which is great. And there's so much you can do with that extra income. Now, I know for me, I'm Ladies Finance Club, so I'm very female focused, but when I look at statistics of women, women, we are living longer, we are earning less. Unfortunately, there is still a pay gap. We are also retiring on less. We have, careers where we take breaks. So when you have a side hustle, it allows you to, have more control, I think, over your whole life, because you've always got that income coming in. You're learning new skills with your side hustle. So, there's a lot of benefits as to why you might want to have a side hustle and that passive income coming into your bank account.
And Kirra, can you tell us, when did you start reselling?
Like you said, Andrew, I started it January 2020 officially. So I've been dabbling in it for a long time, just as kind of a hobby, what it used to be. And then I thought, I'm going to take this a bit more seriously. I had a mortgage and thought, I want to pay this off as fast as possible because I didn't want to pay all that interest to the bank, really. So I thought I'd start this up more seriously. So I got an ABN and I saw an accountant. And then I just gave it my all and thought, it's always been a hobby of mine to go op shopping. So I think that definitely helps. And then I have a shopping addiction. So it allows me to buy and make money from that without hoarding.
And so what was the motivation from you to go from a shopper and having this addiction to going, I'm going to give this a crack? Was there something that happened specifically in your life, or was it just directly related to having a mortgage?
No, probably my other addiction of watching YouTube started it as well. So I used to love watching people go shopping and see what they would find. And then I would see them make money from it. And I thought, oh, this is lucrative. Like, I can make money to go shopping. Like, why wouldn't you want to do that? And a side hustle is an awesome way to supplement your income. Like Molly was saying, I thought about not just mortgage, but, investing money, budgeting. If I want to buy something, like if I go to an op shop and I see, like recently I bought a corner unit cabinet for my house, a furniture piece. And I thought, it's $120. How am I going to pay for this? So then I found other things in the op shop that I could sell so that I could kind of get that for free. So it's kind of like a nice way to support my habit, really, of shopping.
Just before I ask you a question, Danielle, if I can just ask everyone in the who's on the chat today or who's on the session today to make sure you are on mute, that would be greatly appreciated. So, Danielle, let's talk about your journey in reselling. It's obviously been incredibly successful. Am I right in saying you started in 2012?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I started Hawkeye Vintage in 2012 in Melbourne.
And what was the inspiration for that?
The inspiration for that was really because my passion was to have my own fashion boutique, but with my passion of collecting vintage luxury brands and clothing and accessories. So putting all of my passions together and creating a business out of it. But what really prompted me at that time to do it was that I had 2 storage units full of stuff, and I had been traveling around the world and just like sending things back to the storage unit. So when I had come back, it was just bursting at the seams, and 1 storage unit was then 2. And then, yeah, my mum was like, you need to make a business out of this, have a pop-up shop or something to, start selling it and stop hoarding it. Kind of like Kirra. So yeah, it really starts from being a hoarder.
Yeah, exactly.
And Molly, so, in preparation for this session today, we had a bit of a chat, and as a part of that conversation, I was really surprised to learn your amazing and interesting background as an entrepreneur, buying and selling at a young age. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So like Kirra, I loved op shopping, and my twin sister and we would go around to local op shops in our area, buy things and then sell them on eBay. So we were called Retro Rev, and she was the money and I was the operations. And then we would split the profit or invest the money back into buying more things. But, buying a scarf for 50 cents and selling it online for $25, you feel super rich. But we made literally all the mistakes, like forgetting to include postage in the price, and then spending all the profit. So we had nothing to buy with the next money. So yeah, it was a really fun little project, but it ended, I think, like after our 10th item, my sister, I think we forgot to split the profits, and I think I just took the profits from my twin sister, and she was like, right, this business partnership is now over.
Yeah. Kirra, we came across what you do on social media last year.
Yeah.
And it really resonated with us because we saw this person who was posting, I've just hit $35,000 in turnover. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you work? So where you find what you buy, and how you sell it.
So I treat mine purely as a side hustle. So I don't do wholesale for my business because I love going to find the items. So I mainly source at op shops, garage sales, flea markets, and Facebook Marketplace, and even sometimes online, or even sometimes in retail stores. So I'll sometimes go and buy at a discounted rate at a retail store like Adidas, and then I'll sell those sneakers online as well. They're brand new. So I mainly sell on Depop and eBay. They're the 2 platforms that I sell on. eBay has like the largest market in Australia, so I sell on there, but you do need to keep in mind that there are higher fees, but I guess you're not really paying for advertising because eBay does all that for you. I also flip on Facebook Marketplace as well, which is a great resource, and especially when you're starting out, you can deliver the item to someone's house, or you can get them to come to you, which is much easier than trying to work out postage, and all that can be really overwhelming in the beginning. So that's kind of, was there any more to that question?
And what, do you have a specialty in terms of what you focus on buying and reselling?
I do a lot of electronics, so like old school like VCRs and high 8 video cameras. I like to sell higher priced items, so probably like Danielle does more like, she sells higher end high fashion vintage. I kind of like to buy something for like $50 and then flip it for 400, which is, everyone would love to do that. But I guess I prefer lower volume turnover and then higher return on my investment personally. I do a lot of like vintage clothing on Depop, like 90s vintage, I guess that's vintage now currently. So that's kind of my market of doing that, and DVDs and stuff like that.
And so you mentioned eBay, Depop, Facebook Marketplace. Are you selling different things on those different platforms?
Yeah, so Depop, I just do vintage clothing. you can do homewares in that, I think, as well. And they do some film cameras, because hipsters love film cameras now. So they allow them onto Depop as well, but not electronic items. And then eBay, I mainly sell my electronic items, DVDs, and I put clothing on there as well when it's not really vintage. Like, for example, R.M. Williams stuff is one brand that I always put onto eBay versus Depop, because I find that younger people generally aren't looking for R.M. Williams. And then on Facebook Marketplace is, for me personally, stuff I can't be bothered shipping or that I've paid a higher value for, that I don't, that I want to get my good return on investment, that I'll get, like, all the fees will be eaten up in eBay if I sell it on there. So I just make a quick flip on Facebook generally. So.
And Danielle, can you tell us a bit about what you're specialising in and how you're selling it?
Sure. So I specialize in vintage luxury brands like Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Christian Dior, Yves Saint Laurent. So all the high-end designer brands, but we collect things right back to the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and now early millennial, which is now vintage apparently. Yeah. So yeah, we collect source things all around the world. And yeah, that's our specialty, is vintage luxury brands. So handbags, jewelry, clothing, and now since COVID, we've opened up homewares as well. So luxury brand homewares. And our point of difference to other sort of luxury brands or vintage stores is that most of the things that we get are unworn or never been used before, or really slightly used. So our condition of the products are vintage, but they're pristine condition. And yeah.
And you just touched on COVID before. How has COVID changed how you're reselling?
So COVID's changed the way we resell, because we haven't been able to have our physical pop-up stores and events around Australia and New Zealand. We have now taken to Instagram live sales to host our sales on Instagram live. So we're having, and also for the customer, it gives them that still that interactive shopping experience, because they can talk to me directly. And it's been good in a way, because we're not limited to the city we're having the pop-up event in. We can now have the sale and reach all the people in Australia and New Zealand and overseas all in the one spot. So we're not limited to that one city. So it's been a win-win for both customers and us as well.
So that must have been a pretty wild learning curve, going from a physical retail environment, reselling there, to selling on Instagram Live. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the things you've learned on your Instagram Live selling journey they're important to consider if it's something you're looking at doing?
Yeah, so organization, marketing, like if you're going to have a Instagram live sale, it's not about just like turning on the camera. You still need to do some advertising and marketing and things like that behind the scenes to get people there. And the higher numbers you have, the more sales you'll make. So that's a good point. Yeah, just being organized, the organization pre the sale, and having someone to help you do it as well. You can't just do it by yourself. You need someone kind of taking the sales behind the camera as well. And having attractive stock that people want to buy and that actually look good on camera. Some pieces don't look that good on camera and won't sell, but will sell in person. So just knowing what's going to work on the camera, really.
And do I assume correctly that when you started live selling on Insta, you already had an audience? You already had followers?
Yes, we did. So we had maybe 45,000 followers already. So because our business was already established for say 8 years, we still had our regular customers. So we've been able to keep our relationship with our customers that way during COVID. And also we've gained new customers as well with having that wider reach.
I'm just going to jump in with a question from the chat here. Someone's asking, Danielle, how do you source your items? Is that
Secret.
your? Would you have to kill us if you were going to tell us that?
What's your
Exactly.
contact?
Look, we source things worldwide. We get a lot of things from Europe, Japan, America. We now have consignment open within Australia, so we're taking on consignment. So we really have a lot of different avenues for sourcing. It's something, it's hard, you can't just jump right in and do it. This is like 10, 15 years of contacts that we have and relationships that we've gained, especially overseas, that we've physically, been over there and work with buyers and suppliers and things like that. So yeah.
And Kirra, there was also a question in the chat in relation to where you get your stuff, and you mentioned retail and flipping from retail. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? That sounds particularly interesting.
Yeah, well, I joined a lot of Facebook groups that are like Big W for mums and all these things, because they always promote when the sales are happening or if like something's on special, so you can go down and find those items. But literally with the eBay app, you can scan barcodes on the back. It's a bit hard to explain, but you can scan the barcode on any retail item and then you can see what it's selling for on eBay. And so I mainly just use eBay for that. Otherwise, I do sell on Facebook Marketplace as well. But I just go to the outlet malls. Like here we've got, I'm sure there's harbour towns in most places around Australia. It's and I just go to Adidas and I look up shoes and scan the shoes and see what they're selling for. And when they've got them for sale for like $35 a pair, but they sell on eBay for like $100, then you just kind of work that out and calculate shipping and everything like that and see if it's worth your time. I'm a big collector and I love Levi's stuff. So I go to Levi's, I go wherever I can and I just learn about it. Like you literally just look up items and you teach yourself about those items. As for sourcing, I think it's so important, like Danielle was saying, to network as well. Like the more regular you are, the more you show up to things like flea markets or garage sales, people get to recognize your face. They know what you're looking for. They'll put stuff aside for you. They'll be like, Kirra, you're interested in this electronic or this. And I've even made contacts who go out op shopping for different things. And if they find this item at an op shop, they'll be like, Kirra, I found a camera, send me a photo. Do you want this? And so then they'll make a small margin, then I'll make the other margin. So we kind of share it. And I think just networking is just super important to make a community and to learn about that.
And have you worked out, have you got to the point in what you're doing, Kirra, of understanding what is a profitable price and below that it's not so profitable?
Yeah, it takes a while to get used to that. Like I'm still learning because fees are always changing on the platforms that I sell on. If I was just selling on like Instagram and stuff, I think it would be so much easier, but I just don't feel like I have a big enough audience and my audience isn't the right audience for that. But yeah, I don't know. What was the rest of the question? Sorry.
So just in terms of trying to understand what you price it at from a straight out profitability point of view.
Yeah.
So, you've made it really clear you're doing this to try to make a few dollars.
Yeah,
But getting that price right, I presume, is really important. How do you work out if you're making money or not?
I basically, now that I'm doing a higher turnover of stock, I work out my money in and out. So at the end of each month, I kind of just look at my money that's coming in and then my expenses and my bills that go out. I used to track items individually, which I think we'll be discussing later, a spreadsheet that I've made anyway, where when I started out, you can track each individual item and work out your profit on those items. So then you can kind of refine your sourcing process and work out, what's going to be valuable and what's worth your time with buying and what's not worth your time with buying. So, you could have a category like secondhand jeans and maybe they're not selling for enough money for what you're buying them for. But, you can always negotiate as well at different op shops or garage sales to try to get a bulk deal on cheaper items. So, but yeah, it takes time and practice to get used to it and to learn about postage and all your other expenses. Australia is not cheap to do business in, you know, like
Yeah.
we've got high taxes and GST and all these things to consider. I mean, we get amazing benefits like, you know, universal healthcare and stuff, but when you're a small business, it's a lot more difficult to make a higher profit.
So Molly, you come to this with a real financial lens. We're hearing Kirra speak about profitability and costs and so forth, but just taking a step back from that, what do you see as some of the financial considerations if you're either considering embarking in the first part on becoming a reseller, or perhaps if you're at a certain point and you're looking to take it to the next level? Let's start with, if you're looking at embarking on it, what are some of the considerations?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of things financially, you know, you want to be aware of. And I'm just going to point out now, because I saw the question come up in the chat a few times, a few people asking around like, well, how do you know if if what you're doing is a hobby or a business? And I think, you know, there's not like a qualifying, you know, like, yes, you're a business. No, you're not a business. But I can give you some examples of like, what is a business, what isn't a business. So if you have started, your side hustle in the intention to make profit, it is a business. If you're selling clothes that you already have in your wardrobe, not a business. If you're buying in clothes and then selling clothes, it is a business. So there's certain things that make a business. If you're setting up a shop, if you've got a brand name, if you have an ABN, it is a business, and you're going to have to pay taxes on that. And I think that's a really important one to remember. And I don't want to like put anyone off at all, but again, it's important to remember when you are setting those prices and what you're figuring out your profit margin, to remember about tax as well. So another good example is, let's say you're on 60,000 a year in your normal job, and you've got a side hustle where you're making like 5,000 a year. So you're going to be paying tax in line with your marginal rate, your tax rate. So that would be, if you're paying tax on 65K, then, you've got to be putting 32.5% away for your profit, so you can pay the tax man. So that's one thing to think about, is just like the tax. The other thing to think about, I know Kirra mentioned it as well, is like, what profit are you trying to make? And how much time do you have to dedicate towards this? And, why do you want to make money? I think a lot of us are like, oh, I want a side hustle because I'd love the extra money, but what is that money for? And I'd love to hear in the chat, like, if you were making an extra $100 a month, where would that money go? Would it go to, setting up a small investment portfolio? Would it go to building up an emergency fund? Would it go to Christmas, saving for a holiday? I think it'd be really cool to see in the chat, what would people put that money towards if they had that extra income coming in? So that's another thing to think about. How are you going to keep track of that money as well? It's really easy when money is hitting your bank account for everything to get really financially messy. So, we always say at Ladies Finance Club, if you're setting up a side hustle, and you're a sole trader, it's really easy to set up fee-free bank accounts. So just have two separate bank accounts, one for, your little business, and especially if it's not a business, it's just you're trading under a sole trader, and another account, which is just where you put your tax straight away, because no one wants to get a big tax bill at the end of the year, at mid-year, and be like, oh my God, I forgot to put the tax away. So it's definitely something to consider.
So can I jump in here? So you're saying, if I understand correctly, having a goal is really important, and understanding what you want to do with the money.
Yeah, I'm just laughing at some of the answers. Some people are like, you're saving for renovations. Another person said, putting it all into crypto, or generating, paying off my house. Yeah, some good answers coming through.
I think that's a really good opportunity, Kirra. I know you've put something together for this session to share it with people who are on it, as to how you work in terms of helping you organize your finances.
Yeah, so this was something that I used in the beginning. So I've recreated this spreadsheet from, I think it would be really helpful for people who are just starting out to track each individual item. And this is something that obviously you need to go and consult an accountant, which is also really important, is to get a good accountant straight up, because I annoy mine so many times, and probably at least once a week, I'm like, hey, can I do this or that? And then it just makes it easier at tax time. But this allows you to track each individual item. And then I've put in a formula here where it will work out your net profit. So you can add your own, obviously you can even do categories down here. You can create, like, replicate this new spreadsheet, and then you could in the beginning just do like jeans or clothing, and then books or whatever you wanted to do, just so that you can kind of get an overall idea of your business and how much profit you're making, because realistically we're all in it to make money, and so if you're not making enough profit, then it's probably not worth your time, because that's something that a lot of resellers don't consider, is the amount of time that you put in. In the beginning, I was working out like my hourly rate and like what I wanted to make, which ideally I was like at least minimum $50 an hour, and so I was trying to work that out, which yeah, so I think it's really important to do that, especially in the beginning. But this also allows you to track your purchases and where you purchase them from for a tax time, when you need to let your accountant know these are deductions, and when you sell the item you can claim it as a deduction. So by just submitting this spreadsheet to them, you've got enough proof on there. If you're not able to get a receipt from a garage sale, etc., you can use this as evidence of your purchase. But check with an accountant, because you got to make sure that your accountant's okay with that.
And if people want to get hold of this spreadsheet, they can go to Kirra's website.
Go to my website, theresellingenthusiast.com, and then enter your email, and then I'll send you a copy of this Google Sheet, which then Google Sheets is awesome. If you don't ever use Google Sheets, then you have access from it everywhere from your phone, so you can quickly enter items as you're buying them at the op shop or wherever, so you don't lose track of what you've purchased.
Let's talk marketing. Thanks for sharing that.
No worries.
Let's talk marketing for a second. Kirra, do you spend money on marketing, or is it all organic?
It's all organic, as in you pay eBay a fee and then that goes towards advertising. So marketing for me, I'm trying to gain more traction on Instagram and TikTok and stuff at the moment, but it was not something that I was invested in. So I don't pay for ads at the moment. I just sell on eBay and Depop, and they take their fee and do the advertising for you, which is nice.
And Danielle, you've got a huge cohort of followers and have a wonderful brand. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the kind of the 101s of marketing that you've learned along the way, and what sort of marketing you do to grow your audience?
Yeah, sure. So when I first started my business, it was all organic. So just networking, going to events, meeting people, meeting my competitors, becoming friends or associates with my competitors, just really like networking, anywhere I could, go to events, things like that, telling people what I do. You just never know when you meet someone, they might either have something to sell or they want to buy something. So always networking with people from the beginning, word of mouth. And then when it just started growing, I opened up a shop, and that was again kind of the organic traffic that happened there. But what I realized was that not doing proper advertising, we weren't going to have like hundreds of people flock to the shop if we didn't reach the people some way. And I think that's where some people get caught up when they have shops. They think, oh, I'm just going to open the door and there's going to be a huge line there of people wanting to come in, but you've got to actually get them there. So with advertising, we do throughout like the last sort of 10 years, we've done lots of blogger collaborations and reaching different audiences that we wouldn't have the access to, partnering with other brands that are like-minded or similar, or not a direct competitor. It could be like a giveaway or something of skin products, or, you know, just working out, networking with other brands and other people that have a kind of similar demographic of people. Paid advertising. We have a list of paid advertising and free advertising. So there's lots of free places that you can actually advertise, like even Gumtree, you can put a free ad on Gumtree. There's lots of places for free advertising. And then there's paid advertising. So there's like Broadsheet and places like that, like the big sort of editorials. So we do a huge range of advertising, free, paid, blogger collaborations, partnerships, etc. So it's really just a numbers game at the end of the day. The more people you reach, the more people you'll gain, and then, you know, the more sales that you can make. So it's just really finding along the way the demographics of advertising and trying different avenues of where you're kind of gathering the people and what sort of people. So it's really just kind of learning your demographic along the way. And then once you've done that, you can narrow it down with the advertising. So that one might not have worked for you, so we're not going to bother investing in that one. Let's move that money, invest a little bit more on the one that did work to get an even more wider audience.
So let's talk for a second, your people's audience and identifying a target market. Molly, given the really specific, clearly articulated nature of what you do, it'd be really interesting to hear what advice would you have for people in terms of creating their side hustle or trying to grow their side hustle, in terms of wanting to know, of understanding who their audience is and how they can better serve them?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think you have to pick a niche. There's this great saying, I know Mia Freeman says it, she goes, you target everyone, you target no one. So I think it's about getting really specific with who is your audience, and, you know, and what do they want, and giving people what they want. So I think testing is always great. So, you know, if there is a niche you're wanting to go into, it's going to be, you know, well, where do those people hang out? What do they do? What are they liking? And how can you best kind of serve them? I always think as well, like, you know, with business and side hustle, if you're not solving a problem, you don't have a business. And if you're not making money, you have a charity. So, you know, you want to make sure that, you know, what you're going to be putting your time and effort into, there is an audience who want to buy it.
What's your view on that, Kirra? Do you feel like do you have a target audience when you see something to buy?
Personally, no. I mean, which is crazy, because I think because eBay is just so varied and there's a million, I go against the rules, I guess, in that regards. If I was niching down, then and trying to focus more on like Instagram and stuff, for sure, I would have a different target audience. I would probably more so sell like 90s vintage, just because that's what I understand and know. But on eBay, I don't really. I just look at something that I know is going to sell, and it's like such a big, vast majority of audience that wants to buy things. So I definitely don't niche down in that regards. But I think it's definitely, if you've got your own brand and your own style and stuff, you need to 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're getting a bucket load of questions here. So I'm actually going to defer to a number of questions for the remainder of the session. People are super interested in pricing. Danielle, can I ask you, I know we've spoken before about pricing. You've got some really quite strong views on this. How do you price? What's important for someone in selling, when they're selling, and how do you arrive at a price?
Okay, so when you're buying something, when you're actually buying it, that is when you're making your money. When you're buying something, you know already that you're going to make money on this piece. Now, you need to know what things are worth. There's no point in buying a whole lot of stuff and not knowing the value. You might be at a loss. So you need to kind of research the style of products that you want to buy. And kind of streamline your style so that's a bit more neat and tidy, also for your customers, so that they're not kind of selling a bit of everything. It can be a bit confusing. So if you're kind of working out your style, and then learning about that. So for example, if it was the vintage video players, knowing what the value are of those in today's market. So let's say it's let's say that it's $100 to buy one now. So if you wanted to buy one, you wouldn't want to buy it for $100 to resell if the market value was $100. So you want to be buying it for like $20 or $30 the most. So well, it depends on the piece. So really knowing what you're buying, knowing the value, and then when you're buying that piece, knowing that you're making money just right there and then when you've bought the product. So when you come to pricing it, you want to obviously make a profit, but price it fairly to the current market situation. So if something's really trending, like the video players, and they're $100 right now, they might have been maybe $50 5 years ago, but now they've increased in price. So yeah, really knowing the things that you're buying and what the worth is. So you can't put it, just answering Kat's question, you can't put a percentage really on everything. It's not 100% markup like a normal retail store. It doesn't work like that. You know, like you could buy a vintage lamp that's $5,000 and it might be only worth $5,500. So you only make $500 off it. Well, actually, you'd make nothing because you'd have to pay $500 in GST. So you'd be you'd be breaking even on that one.
I think you're treading on. I think you might be treading a little bit on Molly's toes there.
Oh, GST, go for it. That's not my toes.
Boring.
GST on secondhand goods, I don't agree with.
But that's a really interesting point you've just raised there about it's not always about going, I'm going to make 100% or 200% or 50%. It's a bit of a case by case. And I think, is that the takeaway there?
Sorry?
Is the takeaway there that it's a bit of a case by case when it comes to, in inverted commas, a profit margin when you're reselling?
Yes, that's right. So if you might find something at an estate sale for $10 and the value of it might be $3,000. So it's really the thrill of the find, which makes this industry really fun and exciting because you're looking for those, you know, gems that you can make a big profit on. And that's the excitement. And that's what, you know, makes this industry really exciting and fun. That's really the fun part for the buyers is the buying part, because you know, oh, I found something for $10. I know it's worth $3,000. So, but in saying that, you might buy something for $10 and it's only worth $20. So it's just really a case by case, and that's why I say you really need to know what you're buying and know the value of pieces.
Yeah, and Kirra, this one's very much directed to you. Do you think it's better to flip something quickly and maybe take a hit on the profit, or to hold on to it for a bit longer in the hope of trying to make more money?
That's a tough one because it also depends on what, but it actually kind of ties back to what Danielle was saying, because I think there's kind of like no simple answer regarding your percentage of profit and what you're buying items for. I like to buy things that sell faster, and sometimes I will take more hit in my profit margin because I know as soon as I list that, it's going to sell in a day. So if I make $20, I'm happy. So I think, I know it's hard in the beginning because I found it really difficult to work out like, okay, if I'm buying this item for $10, but I can only sell it for, you know, $40, then what percentage do I need to put aside for tax? And then once you're registered for GST, what do I put aside? And like, how much money am I actually making? And you get like super anxious about that. And so I think it is difficult, but like you refine your process over time, and you just, it's just practice really. It's like anything. The more you're exposed to it, the more you refine it. And now I look for items that are, when I'm out in the op shop, I like to sell things for a minimum of $50, no matter, like, you know, I only want to pay like $10 to $15 for that item. And it just takes practice really. It's an unfortunate answer because I know people want like specifics, but it just takes practice.
Yeah. And I know you've jumped into the chat and answered this question, but you know, back to marketing, How do you, what level of importance do you think you need to place on presenting what you're selling, and how do you photograph them?
For me personally, I think it would be very different for like high fashion items for sure. And I think Danielle does like an amazing job at that. Again, eBay is very different. Like quality photos are important, like a nice white background. And there's amazing apps out there now that like I wish I had even like 2 years ago, that remove the background for you. So it's crisp and clean and it's easy to do. And then for Depop, you can change it to like a colorful background and just have the cutout of the item. It also makes it so much easier when you're starting out to not have a high investment in photography equipment, when you can just completely edit the background out. There's great apps like Photo Room. You can get a free version and it just is so simple. But when I was starting out, I just had like a board from Bunnings. I got it for like $10. And then you can get, like we were saying, ring lights for like $25 from Kmart now if you need to. But just take it outside with great natural lighting. I think that's the easiest thing. And then as you progress and make more money, you can make a higher investment into your photography stuff. Although I still just use natural light and a whiteboard. But
Andrew,
Molly?
can I add in on that one?
Yeah,
So
please.
when I was living in London, I used to have a side hustle, and it's a bit random, so stay with me, but it was Rwandan baskets. So I'd support communities in Rwanda and get these beautiful baskets sent over. And for that, I had a wooden table in my kitchen, in my kitchen living room area, and my phone, and the quality photos you could take with just a really good phone and a bowl was amazing. So I think people can get kind of caught up on like, how's it going to look? How am I going to present it? But it's actually just do it. Just give it a go. Just don't let that be something that delays you.
And sometimes like good enough is good enough. Like just get
Totally.
the product up to sell it. And then if it's not selling with that photo that's, in your terms, like 60% good, then go and take it down the track again. And if it's not selling, but just like anything, like social media content, if it's good enough, just get it up because.
Totally.
So is the kind of take out there, it's better just to do it and try it and see what happens than not do anything. Yeah, don't overthink it.
Yeah.
And that's coming from the woman wearing the t-shirt. Don't worry.
Yeah, be happy. Oh, I think I'm doing myself as 10, but yeah, there you go.
There's been a question on the chat around the various platforms everyone is using. Danielle, are you using anything to sell outside of Instagram?
Yes, we have a website. So we hawkeyevintage.com. So we've got just a kind of basic website. I've never invested much money into the website. It's really just our kind of online business sort of landing page, but we are more active through Instagram. We have had I think we still have it up, but probably isn't that active. We have had a Hawkeye Vintage Depop page, eBay, Etsy account, the website, and the Instagram platform. Yeah, so pretty much all of them. We've tried them.
And did you end up really prioritizing Insta because that's where you were finding the most success?
Yes, I think so. And I think it's like a lot easier for our customers as well, and to communicate. If we're having clearance sale items, we would use Depop because it's like a sort of cheaper, people want to buy things cheaper. But for what we're selling, definitely just Instagram and our website is best for that.
I feel like with eBay, that wouldn't it be like quite difficult with like authenticity and stuff like that, like with higher end? Like there's so much fake stuff going around.
There's so much fake stuff on eBay, and just the tedious questions that come through on eBay.
And it's very risky, like, because I guess you don't have control over your business with your kind of stuff. Like you can get returns and then eBay can enforce that and stuff. And when you're making high investments in high fashion vintage, that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Molly, what are your thoughts? What do you think the considerations are with regards to platforms, and which platform you should go with, or which platform?
I mean, finance question, obviously check the fees and what are the fees. As the ladies were saying, some platforms are going to have higher fees than the others. I like I like Facebook Marketplace just because it's so easy to use, and the stuff I'm selling isn't like high end. It's just kind of like, I'm just trying to get rid of things, and I can literally put something on Facebook Marketplace within like 30 seconds. And back in the day of eBay, I was always like, oh my God, it's such a mission to put this on eBay. So yeah, for me, it's kind of like what's easy and fees.
Yeah, fair enough. There's an excellent question here. It starts with the word fashion, and it's directed to you. Tell us about the green dress you're wearing, please, Danielle.
So my green top is actually from a local designer in Perth. She actually makes them all herself. So if I'm not buying vintage, I actually support local Australian brands. So her brand is, where is she? It's Niloufar Kazard, and she has men's clothes and women's clothes. She's based in Perth. So it's just a ostrich feather sleeve shirt. And yes, my earrings are vintage Chanel.
Nice, thank you, thank you. So someone's asked this question. Nicolette has asked for Molly, when does it stop being a hobby and when does it start becoming a business?
Yeah, so I think for that one, it's if you're selling something for a profit online, that's when it's considered business. Again, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a tax expert, but yeah, it's literally that simple. So if you're buying something with the idea of making a profit from it, if you're flipping something, it's considered a business. It's a hobby if it is something around like you're making jewelry and you give it to your friends and they buy you dinner. That's not considered a business. Or if you are, to an extent, obviously, or yeah, as I was saying before, if you have stuff at home that you want to sell online and you're not doing it regularly, and I think that's an important one as well. If it's something that's a one-off, it's not considered a business. If it's something that's regular, it is considered a business. Again, if you've got a brand, if you are putting it on different platforms, if you are advertising it as well, that's when it is kind of seen as a business.
Can I add something?
Yeah, of course.
I think another part of that question might, some people might be confused about is also, if you're a sole trader to begin with, when would you then have it as a registered business? Now, when I first started my business, I was a sole trader, and I actually traded like that for maybe 1 year and then registered for GST. And then halfway through that second year, I unregistered for GST and went back to being a sole trader. And the reason why I did that was because I hadn't met that 75K mark yet, and I didn't want to pay that 10% GST if I wasn't even at that threshold yet. So I think in the first couple of years, I maybe registered and unregistered because I wasn't sure of the direction where it was going to go. So yeah, I think also that working out that fine line between if you're a sole trader or it needs to be a proper ABN registered business to start paying GST.
But there are probably some other considerations, I would imagine, apart from just taxation, in regards to if it's a business. Molly, what advice would you give to people if they want to make it a business?
Yeah, so I think if you're wanting to make it a business, just really think about, what are your goals with the business? And also, running a business is very time consuming. So how much time do you have available? And also, is that going to fit in with your life? Is it something, I think sometimes we feel like with business, we have to go all in, buy all these products, get it up. But I would always say, like, you can dip your toes in the water. And likewise with investing as well. People are always like, oh, I'm investing, I'm going to have to invest $10,000 in the stock market. I'm like, you can start with $50. You don't have to start with like all, it doesn't have to be the biggest thing ever. So you can just dip your toes in the water. So I would say, get a taste for it, get a feel for it. I don't know if that's helpful. I don't know, Kirra, what would you say?
I would say exactly the same for sure, but I would also just say again, like, honestly, just find a really good accountant. I know I'm pushing that a lot, but it's so important. It helps you so much to give you direction, because I was the same in the beginning. I was very confused, very overwhelmed. And when you hit $75,000 turnover in a year, you need to register for GST. You kind of don't have a choice. But I guess I'm at the point, like Danielle was saying, I'm 18 months in now, and I'm thinking, do I want to deregister for GST or don't I? Because that's an ongoing expense. You've got to then do your BAS every 3 months, which requires more effort and time. And starting a business isn't easy, but I think with everyone in here, if they're just starting out and just starting out reselling, I think if you just keep it small, like you said, to start with, where you're just, tracking items individually and just doing it as part of your own tax return, then just, keep it at that until you figure out if you want to do it or not.
Yeah, and if I can add to that as well, like even just get even if it's pen and paper and kind of writing down the estimated costs of what you think are involved. I know a friend of mine was redoing tables the other day, and she goes, oh God, by the time I bought the paint and I bought the sanding machine,
And so we've only got a couple of minutes left. I'd just like to ask each of the presenters if you had 2 pieces of advice for the audience with regards to starting on a reselling career or trying to supercharge it. What would they be? Let's start with you, Danielle.
My 2 pieces of advice would be to don't go out and buy everything and all different styles. Narrow down your styles so that you then create your own aesthetics, so that you can then start to attract a certain demographic or audience to your brand. If you're trying to do everything, like sell videotapes and sell vintage Chanel and this and that, like all in the one space, you'll be getting like different people and it will just become quite confusing. So you should always try and streamline your brand a little bit, like if it's going to be country style crockery or something like that, and things that work in well with that style, so that you can paint a picture to the customers of the lifestyle you're creating, so that then it also will add to multiple sales per customer. Oh, I like that. That goes with this. And bang, 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 they want all those things. So I think that's a good tip. And researching the value of things once you've narrowed that down. So knowing how much you should be buying that vase for and how much the resale price will be. So working out the value of particular styles and eras, what's trending now. I know like pieces of vintage, but like the trends, there are particular trends and styles that are popular at the moment, and that might still be, other things will be popular next year. So just keeping on trend with the vintage market, I suppose.
And someone didn't catch the name of the Perth designer of your dress.
Oh, I can write it in the comments, actually.
Pop it in the chat.
Yeah.
Molly, what would your 2 pointers be?
okay. So the first one would be really disciplined when it comes to the money, and make sure you are writing down in Kirra's awesome spreadsheet, how much you're actually, not losing track of what you've got, and how much you're selling it for and what the profit is, and keeping that bank account separate for the tax. I think it's really important. It's free to set up another bank account, like costs you nothing, but it'll cost your head a lot of your head will thank you for it. So just keeping the tax separate, and then also just being clear on what is your goal. Like, why do you want to have extra income coming in? What do you want to achieve with that money? A lot of us sometimes don't know how much is coming in, don't know how much is going out, just in our general personal finances. So getting clear on like, what is that money going to be used for? Is that money that you might invest into the stock market and, grow a small portfolio over time? Is it to build your emergency fund? Is it to, so you can take time off in, 5 years time and have, a 6-month holiday to get. So I guess I'm getting really clear on why it is that you want to start a side hustle.
And Kirra.
Yeah, I would say definitely my first piece of advice would be finding your community and networking within that community, because I think starting a business is overwhelming and it can be isolating. So I think finding other resellers and other people to talk to, the community has been so welcoming, and you could message them and say, you know, do you think this is worth something? Can people get back to you? And just so important for advice, and so important for even price researching. Like, I use it all the time as a resource. And the next piece of advice would probably be like, don't compare yourself to other people, which is a habit that we'll get into. I think, especially with social media and stuff, and you see what other people are finding, and you know, everyone's market's different, everyone's goals are different, and you just need to keep in mind what your goals are, like Molly said, and just remember that, and just don't compare yourself to other people. Just grow at your own pace, really.
Well, that's all great stuff. We've just gone 1 o'clock. There's some questions that we haven't answered that we'll endeavour to answer subsequent to this session. I'm just going to share screen briefly, so with a little tiny bit more information. So if you would like to follow Molly, Danielle, Kirra, or Gara Sell Trail, here are the handles to follow. And as it happens, if you would like to be a part of Danielle's Hawkeye Vintage virtual garage sale that she's having on Sunday, 21 November, go to the Gara Sell Trail website or go to her Insta. And finally, if you would be so kind as to give us feedback about today, good, bad, or ugly, we'd love to learn and know what we can do better. On screen is a QR code that will take you to a short survey. Also going in the chat is a link to that survey. It'd be absolutely wonderful if you are able to answer it. And finally, if you've got a little bit of inspo out of this session, there are going to be thousands of garage sales happening across the country over the next couple of weekends. You can either host a sale or shop the trail. It's free to register. And there's already over 1 million items listed for sale. So there's plenty out there for the reseller. I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us. Thank you so much, Kirra, Danielle, and Molly, for your time today. It's been super informative and extremely inspiring. We kind of needed another half an hour to cover postage and distribution and couriers and customer service and the ethics of buying and selling and so forth, but time has come to an end. So I'd like to thank you guys very much for your time. And thank you to for the audience for joining the session. I hope you found it useful. There'll be a recording of it distributed late on Monday. So if there's anything you want to revisit, you can. And thank you very much all. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
See you guys.